Now I'm going to narrate a story from Mahabharata, a very interesting story. The title of the story is How Lord Krishna foiled Bhisma's vow to kill all the Pandavas. Bhishma reached down by his side and lifted up his large silver quiver, which was studded with precious stones. He extracted 5 shining arrows gilded with gold and decked with gems. These arrows were fitted with long spiked heads and fletched with buzzard feathers. Bhishma spread out a silk cloth on the ground and carefully placed the 5 arrows upon it. As Duryodhana watched, he sat in meditation for a few moments, muttering Vedic mantras. Finally, he said, I have imbued these 5 arrows with the full force of my ascetic powers. Even Indra would not escape them. With them, I will kill the 5 Pandavas tomorrow. Bhishma's voice was flat and cheerless. Tears came to his eyes as he continued. Sleep peacefully tonight, O king. In the morning, I will come out and fight a terrible battle, the like of which has never been seen. The Pandavas will not escape. Only Krishna can save them, but he has vowed not to take up weapons. A smile touched the corners of Bhishma's mouth. Would Krishna find some way to save his beloved servants? That would be wonderful indeed. But failing that, the Pandavas would be finished. His empowered arrows would not fail. Duryodhana jumped to his feet, beaming and slapping his arms. Then he became thoughtful. Like Bhishma, he also wondered if Krishna might devise some means to foil the plan. Looking down at the arrows lying before Bhishma, he said, Let me keep these shafts tonight. I will guard them carefully and hand over to you at the start of the battle. Bhishma nodded and Duryodhana took the arrows he bore before Bhishma and went to his own quarters, carefully placing the arrows by his bed. Now surely the Pandavas were doomed. Bhishma was famous everywhere as Devavrata, one of unbreakable vows. Nothing would stop him from fulfilling his promise. Duryodhana lay down happily to rest. He could not wait for next day's battle. Yudhishthira sat in his tent surrounded by his brothers. After 8 days of fighting, it seemed his forces were gaining the upper hand. Although pleased, Yudhishthira was simultaneously saddened that so many men were being slaughtered. By the time the war ended, the earth would be full of widows. Yet could be done? He had made every attempt to bring about peace. The stubborn Duryodhana and his blind father were to blame. Now they were suffering the results of their folly. They were so foolish that not even Krishna could change their minds. Yudhishthira looked at Krishna. The Yadava hero had assumed a pensive expression. As everyone settled into their seats around him, he began to speak. We are becoming successful in this fight. Bhima and Arjuna are crushing the Kauravas, supported by all you men. In my view, our enemies will resort to every desperate means to reverse the situation. Even now, I sense that they are devising some dangerous scheme. Krishna looked at Arjuna, who sat apart from the others, his head bowed. He thought only of Airavan. The Naga prince had fought only out of love for his father. Arjuna remembered the day long gone when he had conceived Airavan with Ulupi. She had raised the boy among the Nagas, but he had sometimes come to see Arjuna at Indraprastha. Tears fell from Arjuna's eyes as he recalled the days he had spent with his son. Now that boy lay on a hero's bed, another victim of Duryodhana's greed. Arjuna sighed and looked through the tent opening into the dark night. Krishna moved towards his friend and placed an arm round his shoulder. O Partha, holding fast to the duty of a Kshatriya, dismiss this grief. Your son has surely reached everlasting regions of bliss. Shake off your sorrow and fix your mind on the fight. Arjuna wiped his eyes and turned towards Krishna. How fortunate he was that the Lord of all beings was personally present to keep him fixed in virtue. The duty of a warrior was certainly not easy. Krishna smiled comfortingly as he went on. There is something you must do tonight, Arjuna. Do you recall the time when you saved Duryodhana from the Gandharvas? How he then promised to return the favor? I believe that time has come now. The Kaurava has in his possession 5 arrows meant for the death of you and your brothers. O Arjuna, go to him in friendship and ask for the arrows. Arjuna remembered the day in the forest when he had released Duryodhana and his brothers. The Kaurava had been consumed by shame, yet his Kshatriya honor had compelled him to admit he owed Arjuna a boon. Arjuna recalled how he had laughed and said he would claim it in the future. He had thought that day would never come, but it seemed that Krishna thought differently. Arjuna began to remove his armor. O Janardana, I will always follow your determination. I will go at once to Duryodhana. Unarmed and alone, Arjuna mounted a white horse and rode across to the Kaurava camp. But by the Kshatriya's code of honor, he knew he faced no danger. Many times after the day's fighting, the soldiers of the two armies would meet together as friends. The Kaurava guards stood aside as they saw Arjuna arrive. He was quickly shown to Duryodhana's quarters, where he found the prince about to sleep. Duryodhana stood up in surprise as Arjuna was shown in. Hail, O Partha, he said, pointing to a seat near his bed. You are welcome. Tell me why you are here. Have you come to ask for the kingdom without a fight? If so, then I will give it to you at once. Arjuna knew that Duryodhana was being humorous. Arjuna would never beg for anything. If he were to take the kingdom now, it would only be at the end of the war after his enemies were slain. But he obviously wanted something. Duryodhana looked at him curiously. Arjuna continued to stand. O hero, I have come here remembering that you offered me a boon. Do you recall that promise? Duryodhana shrank with shame as he thought back of that day. Yes, of course, I remember it well. What would you ask of me? I believe you have 5 arrows, O Bharata. I wish to have them. Duryodhana looked at him with shock, but without hesitation he reached down and picked up the arrows. Placing them across his outstretched hand, he offered them to Arjuna. Take them at once, Partha, but pray tell me how you knew about them. Taking the arrows and thanking Duryodhana, Arjuna told him that Krishna had informed him of their existence. He then took his leave and returned to Yudhishthira's tent, leaving Duryodhana seated on his bed, wringing his hands. Krishna again. Maybe the eulogies of Bhisma and Vidura were true. There was surely something extraordinary about that Yadava. Seemed he knew everything. Duryodhana lay down and gazed up at the empty expanse of the tent's large roof. Was there any hope of victory? Perhaps. The arrows may be gone, but Bhishma had still decided to kill the Pandavas.